Hey, welcome back to another episode of Quad P, Practical Poker Profits Pod. My name's Louie. Hopefully, everyone's doing well. And yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about today about avoiding landmines, avoiding bad situations, avoiding doing your best to avoid those certain plays in poker that you can either call like coolers or these things that just ended up having to play out, which it seems like we had no choice in it. And, a lot of times, fate or the cards play themselves out and, we end up, losing our stack or whatever. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about doing your best to avoid those big messy jams that we can find ourselves in sometimes. And because a lot of stuff that gets promoted is with good reason is aggressiveness and things like that, and establishing ways for you to win pots and stuff like that, right? Because um in the end you still do want to it's about uh, a large part of this is about kind of who wants it more and finding ways to find out how you can either manipulate this to happen in your favor or to just kind of just keep hanging in there in order to succeed into getting your goals done, right? So that's very good. A great offense is excellent, but just like that saying, defense wins championships. You can only get so far, with your teams, quote unquote, without without a good defense. Like, you can only get so far. Like, you need a good established defense as well. And so it's like I get to think about, okay, well, what can you do, right? What can you do to avoid these cooler situations or to avoid these landmines, these set mines that end up taking us off guard and all that stuff, and will having us, pretty much be surprised, right? So I think the best thing you can do, because this is something that can't be, there's no 100% foolproof plan for this, so that's one. But the other thing is, all you can do is pretty much just be as safe as you can, tread cautiously. And at the same time, I think using every street, like doing your best to use every street to your advantage is what is a big thing that you can do. And what I mean by every street is, after every, like, an assessment after every main card that hits, so the first main cards that hit is after the flop, the first three cards. Then after that, to assess after the turn, and then after that, to assess after the river. I think taking your time and going street by street and not blowing the pot up in the very beginning where you go all in, or pretty much after the flop. Um, there's times where it's definitely warranted, but at the same time, it's a little bit safer to go to be able to have a stack where you can compete, in a sense where you go street by street as much as you can. And then that way, when things come down to the river, the final card, you'll have a good, kind of like a good feeling in terms of whether all your decisions have been right, or whether maybe or not you got sucked out at the very end. And then at that point, it's like maybe time to abandon, abort ship type of thing. And so, even though that really sucks, in the end, you will end up being better off by avoiding these landmine, train wreck, shipwreck situations where you get took for everything and you get wiped out. you know um and another thing to consider is uh ranges, like in terms of what people, putting people on a certain type of range, in a sense of, um at first you kind of have to see and judge a little bit the player, like based off the player, like whether they're splashy or whether they're super tight or things in between, right? And then by judging the person off of that, then you can see where they're at in their range. Because imagine if there was like a really tight player that three bets you, maybe you were on the button or the cutoff somewhere later on, and then the person under the gun, who was a tight player, they had limped in, but then after you raised it, an X amount, what if they three bet you for a huge amount, and the cards that you have are they're good, but they're maybe not that good. Like maybe what if you had like an ace jack with ace jack in general is pretty good, man. It's a pretty good it's a ace with a good kicker, right? But what if it comes back around and then the person under the gun who's a tight player, you know, just skyrockets, into a three bet, right? And then at this point, you got to think, oh man, like my ace jack probably doesn't look that good because he was under the gun and he limped in and he's tight. And maybe he has something like ace king, or maybe he has something even better than that, like pocket kings, pocket queens, or aces or something. And then pretty much with any of those scenarios, your ace jack is pretty crappy. It's not good, right? It's not really good. So, doing your best to assess these situations and seeing where they're at in their range in terms of their positioning and seeing what kind of player they are, that will depict a lot. You know, if it's a player that's been going crazy all night and three betting trash, super wide ranges and all that, then maybe this would be a good idea to maybe four bet. I don't know, like depending if the pot didn't already get too crazy, or at least call and then kind of see where it goes from there, and then see how the flop kind of works out for you. So it just kind of depends on the player, and so this is a time where you do want to end up judging a little bit, or judging a good amount actually, in order to see what type of thing would this person three bet with, and in terms of his positioning of where he is at, and so doing those things will help you to avoid situations where you get sucked out on and all that stuff. And another one too, just how we've been talking about lately, like a theme, is to when you bet, when you raise into the pot, to raise enough to just have a couple of callers. You want, roughly just about one to two callers. You don't want to have a whole calling train come down, because that at that point, that's another way that even I've recently have been getting sucked out on, is where I basically invite too many people to the party, and there wasn't enough appetizers in the party meant for that many people, so to speak. And then so that's another time where you're asking to get sucked out on too, because it's way harder to navigate with so many people, especially if the board that comes out is a straightening board, is a wet board, and stuff like that. That'll make it very hard. On top of, if the players are a little bit on the loose or bluffy side, it'll throw another wrench in there, right? And so, yeah, it's like, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, because I just noticed that people are really hungry to win the pot and find ways to win the pot, and will let out a lot of thoughts and aggression and energy in order to make these things happen. But at the same time, it seems that, like, not that many, or I guess I get the feeling that there's not that much pride into seeing that you don't lose so much, right? And avoiding these bomb situations where that we're just going to make you, that were just pretty much like the cards were just meant to just kind of have someone coolered off, you know. And it's a good feeling, it's a good feeling to have maybe pocket jacks or pocket tens, under the gun, and then people will start raising and going just bonkers crazy, like where people start raising, re-raising, all in, call all in. Like when you start seeing action like that after you raised a little bit under the gun with like pocket tens or pocket jacks or something, this is a time where you're just gonna want to let it go. Like one or two of those people just pretty much got you dominated if you saw that much action afterwards in the rotation in front of you. And so it's okay. And then you should know that in a weird way, you're actually making money like this, because if you were to put yourself in those situations and play those out over a good amount of time, those are like losing plays, where you just kind of called too light when you saw all this action in front of you. So those are just some things to consider, because I noticed that what the good crushers that I see out there, what they're good at besides being, aggressive, is that they're also good at playing their defense. They won't keep putting themselves in these spots and make big pots out of scenarios where they have marginal made hands. They really avoid that. And then they really avoid that little rule that I've been saying lately about going all in, with a one pair type of thing. You know what I mean? And they avoid situations like that. And so even if you do lose some money in that pot, in the end, you'll end up coming back. Things, all the plays will kind of even back out, and then you'll probably end up still winning maybe later on that night, or at least in the week. It'll still be a better week for you because you didn't lose hundreds of dollars in this one pot that you didn't belong in, And so it's like, I think going into the card room with the idea and with the pretty much the passion of not wanting to lose just as much as you want to win. I think that is very, very justifiable as well. Just like I said in the beginning, it's like a championship team is what, like, built off of defense or something like that. Like they'll say that in football, and because it's true in sports, like the defense is really takes you there when the defense is strong. And then so being careful and treading cautiously is something that we should really take pride in as well. That's a big part of the game, like, just like with patience that goes along with it. So yeah, just wanted to share a little bit about that. Hopefully, you guys can take something good from that. And yeah, uh, feel free to email me at uncannymysticminds@gmail. I put up the YouTube, so the YouTube is now Practical Poker Profits podcast. It's all up there. I got 5 of the 6 episodes, and then this will be the seventh. So later on today, I'll be working on putting up the sixth one that I have, and then this very one that we're making right now. So yeah, look out for that. And uh, yeah, just feel free to get at me, and I'll keep seeing what's up with you guys and checking in. And good luck on the felt, and let me know how it goes. All right, peace.